Welcome to Leadville Uncovered, a podcast interview series brought to you by Ultra Uncovered. I'm Russell Ditzworth, and along with Corinne Chalvoy, we're bringing the hype for Cloud City, the race across the sky, the Leadville Trail 100. This series brought to you with support from Open Fuel Nutrition. Check them out at openfuel.co. Use code UU25 to help the show to get yourself a discount. I've currently got the Zesty Limeade and the Mango Tango carb and electrolyte drink mixes, which I recommend. Both are amazing. Now, if you only know this guest by his hair, I will not blame you. Today we've got Tim freaking Tollefson, and he is so much more. Head crafter at the Mammoth Trail Fest and Mammoth 200, frequent free trail media contributor, and a pro athlete spending his first end of August away from Chamonix, France in over a decade. Instead, Tim is coming to Colorado to race for his first time at the Leadville 100. This conversation is packed with great insights and some fun takes delivered by Tim with a smile like always. So with that, on to the interview.
All right, welcome back to Leadville Uncovered 2026 edition here with Russell Ditzworth. I'm Corinne Chalvoy, and today we are really excited because there is an icon, a legend, someone who has been in our sport for so long and run so many incredible races, but has never run the Leadville 100 and is doing so this year. Tim Tollefson, welcome.
Great to see you guys. And can I just first say congrats to you, Corinne, for getting Women Can and REI. That's exciting. Like, I saw that today, and so congrats. That's a big move.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It is, yeah, I'm honored and a little bit scared of like being prepared for it, but I'm really excited. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it was very organically happened through an advocate of the brand. And so it's really cool when you just stick with stuff. I think things happen. And so I appreciate you saying that. Well, we are here to talk about you, Tim, and I think we got to start with Russell uncovered this really cool factoid that you have never run a race in Colorado.
Oh, man.
So, uh, what brings you to Leadville?
It is wild that in my, I don't know, has it been 12 or 13 years of ultrarunning? I have not stepped foot in Colorado for a race, which I think I can just publicly say that's embarrassing. And I apologize for not coming to the state earlier. But I'm excited to get over there. And what's bringing me there? I mean, obviously, or not obviously, but I've never been. So this is exciting. The prospect of that curiosity of what does the state have to offer? Having a lot of friends that have spoken highly about all of the different events. And then Leadville is such a classic race. And I thought about this with Lindsay the other day, how in my tenure as a pro, it's kind of unfortunate that Leadville wasn't prioritized in the sport. In a lot of ways, there have been great athletes that have gone there, men and women, but the media, the attention hasn't really been there in the last decade. And so I never really had the incentive to go to Leadville, to be honest. And like, I wanted to go, but there was this other race in Chamonix that happened a week later that kind of like sucked up all the oxygen. And so, I admittedly, I think it's something that was always in that, the periphery of my interest, but I never, was able to indulge and actually give it some time. And then this year, it basically came together last minute because I decided I could not go out to Chamonix because I need to stay local as I build up for some of our races that we put on. And then as I was looking at the calendar, I thought, you know what, maybe this is the year. Maybe we should go to Leadville. And so I actually, I did some digging and realized it's not as easy to get into Leadville. Most of these other big races, you just email and they'll give you an entry. And I signed up for the Silver Rush 50. And then unfortunately it was canceled due to wildfires. So then I thought, well, maybe Leadville isn't in the cards. And then last week, the organization reached out and said, hey, do you still want to come? And so I pulled the trigger and it's kind of like, well, 3 week, lead up. Can we do this? I think we can. So yeah, I'm excited.
Well, you mentioned the wildfires a little bit, and as a race director yourself, do you have maybe some thoughts or some sympathy over kind of what Leadville Race Series is kind of going through to piece together the course this year? And it's awesome that they reached out to include you when you had intended to maybe go to Silver Rush and get your entry that way. That shows some faith on your part as well. So I'm happy that you're coming to Colorado. But talk a little bit about from like maybe the race director's hat standpoint.
My heart goes out to everyone inside the organization. As operators, we're in the business of putting on events. We're in the business of curating experiences for runners. The last thing anybody wants to do is cancel the event that that your runners have been training for. But ultimately, you have to make those decisions based on local stakeholders, the safety, the environment, all of these different variables. And so watching it unfold, I could just empathize with the organization. And I thought they handled it very well in their comms. And I was, just taking note because, I was curious how they might handle it. And because, everyone handles these situations a little differently, but I thought they did a very professional job. They gave clear options for the runners. And, I felt like I was respected as an entrant to the event. It was very hard to see it canceled, but my heart was with the Leadville people and the first responders. And then, following before getting into the race director game, yeah, I was in that camp of, well, just, choose a new route. Like, let's just go, and it's not that simple. Like even like changing a single like half-mile stretch of trail to maybe a road, you need to get permission from possibly like the local stakeholders, the landowners or the land managers. Could be like the county, the township, private landowners. It could be the state highway systems. Like there's so many different things that play into it that even just minor adjustments send into a trickle effect that can take almost weeks to come up with an answer. And so I'm happy to see that, or it sounds like they've come up with a solution to avoid some of the burn scar areas and still offer an event. We haven't learned yet what the course is. So, but for me, I didn't know what the course was before. I only knew Hope Pass. And so I think we still go over Hope Pass. So if the start and the end is different, it's still going to be fun to me.
Okay, so tying into that, what would you want it to be if you could design it yourself? If you could say these are going to be the first 25 or 30 miles of my first Leadville, like what would you put there?
Well, I'd want the original course, right? Because I just a student of our sport. All of the greats have contested the traditional Leadville course. And I don't know enough, but maybe there are minor variations over the years because of other things that could have happened, but it's maybe not. So I would prefer the original course, but in absence of that, let's get it flatter and faster. Like it's, I'm okay with that. But honestly, I don't have much of a preference. As I kind of alluded to, this was it was on my periphery. It kind of came together, then it fell apart, and then it came together last week. So I haven't done much due diligence on what even the course has, other than clearly knowing that it's out and back 50 miles each way. You go over 12.5, like it's high altitude. And so I'm excited about that because this will be the highest race I've ever raced. I live at altitude. I'm looking out my window and I see 13,000 foot peaks. So like it's not new to me, but I've never raced that high. So that's going to be a really fun thing to kind of taste.
What do you think you might do different given the altitude concern as it relates to racing?
Ooh. I don't know. I should ask you guys, what should I do differently? You're the pros. You've both run Leadville. Russell, you're running this year. I know like you're the hard rock expert. Like, so what do you guys advise me to do? So I'm a noob. Like I'm green. So how do I not DNF this race? What do you tell me?
Increase fueling, not fueling, hydration and cooling. It becomes more important at altitude, in my opinion, and it can wreck you faster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's similar to like a hard rock where it'll sneak up over time, the effort level. And so I think that it can maybe, you can end up on the back of Hope Pass and think the first time you went over it that you're fine, and then end up on the back of it coming back and not feel so fine. And so I think it's maybe just like I don't know, maybe it's moderating and dialing back effort just the tiniest little bit, you know, than what you would normally do. I don't know. That's my
Okay.
suggestion.
It's well, okay, not to derail the conversation, but after Hope Pass the second time, and you get to, let's say, mile 60, do you start to feel the pull of the finish line? Like, hey, the hardest terrain might be done. Obviously, I still got 40 miles, and that's tough. But mentally, would you say like 60 to 70 is like halfway at Leadville?
I have seen a lot of people get into, on the traditional course Outward Bound, which is 72, Russell?
78.
78, and have, like, big problems. Like, a lot of the front having to sit for a long time and, people questioning what I think Kat Bradley, the year she got second was like had a really hard time leaving that aid station, like
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think that yes, you have the bulk of the climb and you've done that, but I've just seen a lot of people either be in Twin Lakes or Outward Bound a bit broken. And so I think I don't know. I think that just is a combination of the altitude, and I mean, it's a race that can get really hot too,
Yeah.
so I think 80 degrees at 10,000 feet feels like 95 at
Absolutely. That's
5,000.
roasting.
Yeah, yeah. So
I've also seen a lot of sad marches up the next climb out of Twin Lakes because you immediately go back up towards the Mount Elbert trailhead out of that aid station. And a lot of sad hikes up that thinking, oh my gosh, I still have so much left. But yeah, there's definitely the pull, and you have your crew there also, which also totally helps from there in.
yeah, yeah. The eating, the drinking, and being able to keep things down, just like we see at Hard Rock is, I think that's a struggle for a lot of people.
Okay. Noted. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm writing all of this down.
Alternative fueling options, lots of liquid,
Yeah.
calories, whatever. I guess we could go the Jen Lichter, like, Wonder Bread soaked in Coke route if we have to, it's
Yeah.
all on the table. But all right. So what are some of your goals, Tim? I mean, do you have obviously time goals are going to be tough not knowing what the course looks like, but like whether they're performance or just experience type goals, do you have any that you're willing to share?
So, um, maybe this is a way to get to an answer to your question. Last week we have this great little local run club here in Mammoth, and one of our group leaders concocted this really fun competition last week where it was like um, a let's call it an ability graded race, kind of like Dipsy, where it's like, hey,
Mhm.
everyone has a chance to win. And so like we were asked to give like what we thought we could run a flat 5K in to like help seed our spaces. And on the back end, I was like, I think I'm still in this space of like overestimating my ability as a runner. Like, so there's that competitive brain that still thinks like I'm 30. And like in this last week event, like I kind of got rocked by a lot of people because I was like, oh yeah, I can run a 16-minute 5K right now. I was like, oh no, maybe I can't anymore, And it's so I take that into, something like Leadville, and I can't turn off the competitive portion of my brain. Like I want to win the race, but the reality is I don't know where I am, which is kind of exciting. Like, the last couple of years have just looked a lot different for me personally and professionally. And, I've been in entertaining and engaging and showing up in different ways. And I feel like I'm on the path that I want to be, doing meaningful work, but it also has kind of maybe come at the expense of my competitive career. But when I get out on training runs, I still visualize like, hey, what would it look like to come, downtown Leadville and, be the first one across the line or the third one across the line, but ultimately, like I want to get, I want to get a buckle. Like, Leadville is, as we started this conversation, a classic race that has been long on my short list of events I would like to do. And so I will not squander the opportunity. And I plan on returning to Mammoth with a buckle. And I'm excited about that. And I'm going into it blind, course wise, maybe fitness wise. I literally have no idea who's in the race. Shout out Leadville for keeping it a secret because that's kind of cruel. I think you should publish the start list. But it's going to be fun. So I think I'm going in there wanting to have a day that I'm proud of. And, literally, I don't know what that would look like.
Well, Tim, you can pay attention to the Leadville Uncovered interviews to find out who is going to be running the race. But
I
my
love it.
next
Yeah,
question for
don't tell
you
me.
is,
Don't tell me yet. I need another week to not get in my own head. So
I'd love to know, Tim, are you working with a coach still? You famously worked with Mario Fraioli for many years. And maybe who's on your team for Leadville for the race? Are you going to have any crew and pacers during the event?
So, Mario, bless his heart. I dropped him as a coach as I realized that I basically was kind of being really terrible at being a pro runner. I was like, you need to spend your time on other people, right? Like he's always in my corner. We talk a lot, and clearly he's having a lot of success now that, he jokes I was his guinea pig. He made all of the mistakes with me before Vincent and his other stable of athletes, unlocked things. And I'm okay with that. I'll be a guinea pig. But, I don't have a coach right now. I've just been kind of doing intuitively what feels good, which has worked well because my work schedule with, event production and race directing it's been the most stressful 2 years of my life, but also the most rewarding and fulfilling. So like, I think it's been nice in a sense not to be accountable to a coach because I would feel like maybe I wasn't holding up my end of the bargain to them, because they take so much time and care into a plan. And I just haven't been able to get that consistency. And I actually don't have a crew or pacer yet. And so I haven't thought about if I'll do like maybe a public cry for help, race week and ask, or just go old school with drop bags and aid stations. There's something romantic about that. So we're 2 weeks out. I got a little time to think about this, but no, I don't have anyone lined up yet.
Oh man, that's kind of crazy, but you would have zero problem getting anybody to do any job, I would imagine. And Leadville's the kind of race where, like crews are just constantly helping other crews. And so, yeah, if you need any help or you want us to crowdsource people ahead of time, just, we can secretly do it too. Just,
Okay.
yeah, let us know if you
Appreciate
want that
that.
support.
Okay, thank you.
The Castle Rock Run Club will gladly adopt Tim Tollefson.
Yeah. I don't know if any of us can run with him, but we can crew. We can definitely crew.
I've actually in my career I've only had one pacer in my entire life, and that was at Western States my second time.
Wow!
And because in Europe you're not allowed pacers, and then stateside, I never did states until a long time into my career, and so like there wasn't the option. So I enjoy going the solo route, but yeah, the crew's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Do you think that you would be able to like tell a difference? I mean, Leadville's one of the only races that exists now that people can mule at. So like if there was somebody
you can mule at Leadville?
You can mule at Leadville.
Like, could you even like tether like a bungee cord between you and your pacer, or just carry things?
Literally, Russell, my husband, and my friend Todd, they carried my full pack. They wore 2 packs.
Oh, my mind is blown right now. So, okay, so maybe it sounds like I need to find a pacer.
I mean, if you want to not carry anything, then
oh man,
that's an option.
That's wild.
I interviewed another athlete who says they are literally carrying nothing the last 40 miles. So don't put yourself at a disadvantage there, Tim.
I mean, so then, when I head out for my runs, because I like not coming back to my house or my car, I just carry 4 or 5 or 6 bottles at a time sometimes. So like that's just been weight training, right? For Leadville.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, this is, man, the more you know. I would say breaking news, but clearly I'm the last person on earth that learned this.
It is kind of a unique thing. There, obviously it's very much frowned upon at most races. And so, no, but it's always been a thing at Leadville. You can, your pacer can mule for you.
I mean, it seems on brand. It's like, a throwback to using mules, like literally for mining towns, and,
that's cool.
The utilitarianism of like just that. So, that's cool.
It's a good point. All right. Well, we're gonna find someone to mule for you. So, okay. Here's a non Leadville question that Russ threw in here. All right. He wants to know what's better for a young aspiring pro ultra trail runner in your opinion, a win with a decent comparable time at Leadville or a back end top 10 at one of the UTMB championship races.
See,
Like
because
an
you have
eight
to choose one or the other. Same time. You can't do both.
When you say championship races, are we talking like in
UTMB,
Chamonix?
UTMB, OCC,
Yeah.
CCC.
I'm going to give the nod to Chamonix. I think if you were to win Leadville, wait, was the question win at a good time or just, okay, win at a good time?
Win.
So I think it really honestly still would favor Chamonix. You know, if you won and set a course record, I think that suddenly gives the nod to Leadville. But unfortunately, at the moment, Leadville doesn't carry much weight with brands, I don't think. Which, you know, I think it goes to some of that. You know, this would be a fun, robust conversation to have. Yeah. But I think some of it is just the, you know, it doesn't get the attention that, you know, I think a lot of us wish it would, because it is such a classic, iconic race. And I like the old school ultras, and I think heritage and legacy matter. But there hasn't been a big focus, I don't think, on media or, you know, kind of the curation of a competitive field the way these other races have. And so in this, if you're in the brand side, you're trying to think of how do I rank, order, and rate an athlete's performance, and context matters. And while time is a good barometer of previous performances, head-to-head competition is probably the most valuable thing. And if you win in a decent time at Leadville, I'm guessing it's maybe like against one other person historically. You know, it's not going to have the depth. So that would be my off-the-cuff answer.
Yeah. Okay. Follow up to that. You mentioned two things that maybe could make it more valuable to brands: the media side and the competition side. What if the media side increases or changes and grows to a scale that, you know, is approaching like a, I don't know, like a Cocodona, for example, but the depth doesn't? Do you think that would maybe tip those scales a little bit more? Or do you think that they would be better suited to invest in the competition side versus the media side?
Well, I think it depends on what the race wants themselves. Like what kind of experience do they want to curate? Who do they want to attract, and what do they kind of want to stand for moving forward? Mm-hmm. I feel like the media will give visibility, and brands love visibility, right? So if you can increase that platform and the reach, that's a benefit. I think brand managers, they depend on what spot they're trying to fill on their bus of athletes. It will kind of depend on what the space is available for. Like, do they want a competitive athlete? Do they want one that has more visibility, falls more in the influencer category? And I think the best brands kind of have a nice portfolio of representation from athletes, you know, whether it's performance based or it's like demographic based or, you know, kind of geographically. I think, you know, having a widespread portfolio, if you're able to, is probably ideal. You know, it's strange. I almost view Leadville as, because actually this is a good case sample. I was going to Boston this year to support some runners at the Boston Marathon. And I was chatting to people on the plane, and they were these 20-something-year-olds from Southern California, college students, and they all knew about Leadville. They're not runners, but they knew about Leadville. And it was this like great like slice, or like this kind of like representation of, I think Leadville has benefit from the influential marketing of influencers versus like top tier pro trail runners. And I don't say that disparaging, like David Roach, you know, Ann Flower, they're amazing athletes every year. But in general, I think that there are more of the influential content creators that have spread the Leadville message to the masses. And that has brought in new runners, which is really exciting. But you know, I asked the same people, like, do you know about UTMB? They didn't know what UTMB was. You know, so it's kind of like totally different representations of the sport and how it's growing, almost like a pyramid in all directions. And so I think that Leadville fills maybe more that discovery portion of the pyramid, where it's not tip of the spear competition, but it's bringing people into the sport, into the space through, you know, this content that's being produced at a high level and a high volume. And so that's kind of a weird response to your answer, but that's kind of where my head goes with
Yeah.
this.
No, it makes
That
sense.
that totally makes sense. And, I hope that you come to Leadville and kind of feel that the kind of the ethos of like all are welcome here. You're welcome to come, toe the line here at this race. There's no like qualification standard for Leadville, but they do have strict time standards, and it has a reputation for having a high DNF rate, but that means that they're also willing to let people toe the line and be there. And so I hope you get a great experience as you come here. And I think, Corinne, let's set you up for the last question here, unless you've got something specific to ask Tim.
I think, okay, we've got two more. I want to ask your Josh
Oh, okay.
Kerr question.
Okay.
Russ also, he's just brainstorming all these questions that I just asked Tim Tollefson because it's the first time I'm talking to him. Okay, so the next question is, Josh Kerr broke the mile. Which route, record, or course in the world of trail running might have the power in the future to kind of hold up like that record did? Is that what you were getting?
Yeah, 3:43.13 is the old record. That's the number everyone knows.
Yeah. So is there an equivalent, which one comes to mind for me, but is there equivalent right now in trail that's kind of maybe going to hold up like that? Which, God, I don't know. I thought that was Courtney's Western, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, I know. It's like what we gave her a year or two.
A year, 2 years.
That's hard. I mean, if you think about just legacy or like length of, like the mile, a lot of people think back to like Roger Bannister in the 50s breaking the 4-minute barrier. Like, so over the last 75 years, there's been a lot of excitement around that 1,607 meters. In trail, I don't know. Like a lot of our top records have been broken, over the last few years. There are, let's see, like what Matt Carpenter's,
Pikes Peak.
like that's probably the one that has the most heritage and legacy and prestige. That's a great question. I'd have to think about that more, but that's what pops to my head first would be Carpenter for the men's side. The women's side, Courtney has dismantled a lot. Katie, Jen, all these women have dismantled a lot of the records, which is exciting to see. But I think to be on par with something like a mile world record, I think you need to have an event that has stood or has been relevant for more than just like a decade or two. Like even UTMB, one of my favorite races, doesn't have the legacy and the heritage or the history that like a mile or a Leadville or a Western States or a Hard Rock even have. Like I feel like it's too young. 2003, 23 years is still kind of like young in that regard. It obviously is one of the most important events that we have in our sport, but it doesn't have the history that, something like a mile record has. So,
and the course changes a bit too. So
yeah. And that's
hard.
Yeah. I don't know. What would you guys say?
I think we're going to need a few years of Western States' records not being broken for us to even consider some of those. And then it's going to be like, you need to catch it on a cool year. You need to have a great field, which you'll always have. But it's tough.
Yeah. I go back to I think it is probably the Matt Pikes Peak, because the Pikes Peak marathon record, he set the ascent record during the marathon. That was only recently broken by Remy Benet. So I don't know. Like I don't think that I don't know who is going to beat that. Like it's just it's crazy that when you have run on the bar trail and you have run like to the top and you know what his ascent time was. So his ascent time, right, which was the record, was just under 2 or 2:01.
Sounds right.
13.2 with 7,500 feet of climbing, get up to 13,000 feet. But then he turned around and came down in an hour and 15 minutes. Like, it's just mind blowing. So I feel like that's one that's probably going to continue to stick around for a while.
It would be neat to almost campaign to get a group of men and women to take shots at that record, basically, right? Like, encourage them to show up and compete against one another. Because I think that's, almost maybe analogous to Leadville. It doesn't get the prioritization on an athlete's calendar
Yeah.
to have that depth show up. When Remy took the ascent, it was part of the Golden Trail World Series, which
Yes.
didn't last more than a couple of years. So like he was incentivized to be there and take a crack. Otherwise, it's hard for an athlete to like focus several months of their career to doing that, even though as fans, we want to see someone do it. And I think Matt would even admit that he'd love to see someone, break the record. But yeah, I think it would take a lot of variables to kind of compound together.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I was out there with the year that Killian, Sage, I don't know who was with them, but they all ran it. And just, I mean, seeing how far off of it somebody like Killian was like, whoa. Whoa,
Yeah.
this is pretty stout. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but it would be cool to see that. That's the main one that comes to my mind. Russell, you think Western? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. We have one final question here. TGF just a little bit for it, and it's similar to the goals question, but this is if they write an article after the race in the local paper, which we think is the Leadville Herald. What, Tim, would you hope that headline would read?
Has been runner gets belt buckle.
No. Oh man, that sounds like clickbait.
I think it's perfect. It's
set the bar low. I think there's gonna be a bigger headline than that. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time. Can't wait to see you at Leadville. We will both see you out there. I'll be doing some media stuff, so
Cool.
Really excited. Just let us know if we can crowdsource any support for you. Happy to do that. And just hope you have the full Leadville, even though it's not the traditional course. Hope you have the full Leadville experience, and I'm sure you'll be welcomed into the community with open arms.
Thank you both. And thank you for telling the stories of Leadville. This is where it starts. We need more of this so that we get more, like pros and elites to show up because, as we said, the race deserves it. So thank you guys.
All right. Thanks, Sam.